morning, brothers and sisters. Good to see you again. Today's weekly update topic is God, our Heavenly Parent. It is part 1 from main topic, Heavenly Parent, Holy Community. What comes to mind when you look at the circle and square here? To be honest, I get a lot of inspiration as I was preparing for this content. It seems that God is revealing a lot of things that I did not know before. Again, when you see these two shapes, you remember something, right? Here the volume of the circle and square are exactly the same. The shape is different, but the volume is the same. Looking at these two different shapes, I thought of man and woman. This is because man and woman have different appearance, but the value God has given them is the same. Is it possible to put one shape into another shape without changing the volume? It's impossible, right? One must be obviously smaller if it is to fit into the other shape. This is just like if I dominated my wife, the value of my wife created by God must be less than my worth. So, this is against the principle. Look at this. This is Leonardo da Vinci's work, The Vitruvian Man. It is one person, but created exactly the same volume of two different shapes. By looking at this, we can imagine how God's masculine and feminine image working equally and harmoniously together in God. I think this is the good introduction for today's topic. What do you think? Brothers and sisters, we are blessed beyond imagining to build God's hidden and long-cherished hope with our true mother. Heavenly Parents' Holy Community. To build Heavenly Parents' Holy Community requires that we have a fundamentally different mindset. It requires us to have complete understanding of God, the Creator. When we come to know God fully, then we can understand the principle of creation and build the community He dreamed about, His holy community. I believe that true Father's Word contains many elements that allow us to know God, right? In particular, in the divine principle. God is more clearly clarified than in any other religious tradition. The exposition of divine principle asks the question, how can we know the characteristic of God, who is an invisible being? It answers by saying,
we can know them by observing the world of His creation. For this reason, Paul said, ever since the creation of the world, His invisible nature, namely His eternal power and deity, has been clearly perceived in things that have been made. So they are without excuse.
This means, first, that we do not know God, the Creator. Second, it affirms that where we come to know God, the Creator, we can best understand His principle of creation. When we know God, know His principle of creation, then we can fulfill the blessing He gave us. But our knowledge of God has so far been limited. We did not know Him very well. That is why we call God our Heavenly Father. For the past 6,000 years, people have believed in God as their Heavenly Father. But the fact that Heavenly Mother also exists has come as a shocking truth. That is why through Mother's word that God is both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother become the most shocking truth to humankind. But true Father also spoke about God as both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. True Father said a lot about Heavenly Parents. Among other religions, the founder of the Mormon Church, Joseph Smith, also briefly talked about Heavenly Mother. Above all else, the unification thought clearly set out that God is both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. In the divine principle, God is not expressed separately as Heavenly Father or Heavenly Mother, but God's characteristics are covered in great details. In the original divine principle, True Father explains that
people must know that only Heavenly Father without Heavenly Mother has been revealed throughout history. Heavenly Father without Heavenly Mother. When God sees children who don't know their parents, who don't know the basic principle of God's will, God feels sad and heartbroken at the situation. It shows that there are men and women within God. It is the creation of man which separates this reality. Therefore, the synthesis of spirit and body again in the form of God is a completed human being. But this was not completed due to the fall of man. Therefore, God has so far appeared in the world in an unfinished human form. Children who exist as seeds and fathers must be born again through mothers centered on love, so that they, the children, can fulfill the role of complete human beings.
as stated in the last part of Introduction of Divine Principle, when the new truth appears, it will be included in the new revised version.
The words proclaimed on these pages are only a portion of this truth. This volume is merely a compilation of his disciples have hitherto heard and seen. We believe and hope that when the time is ripe, more profound portions of the truth will be published.
So I'm hoping to see in the future the new revised version which will include God is our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. True Father and Joseph Smith, who revealed the principle to the world, also said that God is both Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. But the Heavenly Mother did not stand out when they were alive. The reason is that True Father and Joseph Smith were men, and they were representative of God's masculine image. So these men also led the providence centering on God's masculine image. With the fall of Eve, the image of woman was erased. With the fall of Eve, the existence of God's feminine nature was forgotten in the fallen human world. As a result, God has been called Heavenly Father along humans for the past 6,000 years. And only God's masculine nature has been placed in human perception. That was a result in misconceptions about God, loss of women's authority, gender discrimination, constant war and conflict. These problems all stem from the comparison of male and female external powers. However, the masculine and feminine image of God are not competing forces. The masculine and feminine nature clearly have different roles. This is a phenomenon in which different nature, such as high and low, yang and yin, heat and cold, night and day, and subject and object harmonize and unite with each other for the sake of new creation. The truth is that water always flows from top to bottom. If there is no elevation in the location, water cannot flow. This does not mean that everything is superior just because it is high and inferior just because it is low. Life is constantly active during the day, and all life is inactive at night. Because of that, the existence of night cannot be ignored. The masculine and feminine must cooperate and coexist with each other to generate constant energy. It is true that no matter how strong a man is, he cannot give birth to a child. Just because a man can carry more heavy objects does not mean he is superior to a woman. Women give a man hope and courage with their feminine nature. That is why it is often said that behind every great man, there is great woman. We can learn a lot from story of the sun and winter in Aesop's fables. Love and care win where force and power fail. God's principle of creations are not accomplished by force or power or dominating. God's principle of creations are love and care and harmony. Since the role of man and woman are different and yet complementary, each other's gender should be treated with respect. Both men and women are necessary to bring forth life. For water to flow, there must be high and low position. All living things need night to recharge their energy in order to be active during the day. This is the essence of God's nature of a dual characteristic. For the past 6,000 years, human beings and all things have suffered, and the world has walked the path of misery, not because of the fault of Adam and Eve, but as a result of not knowing Creator God. If the fallen human ancestors, Adam and Eve, had truly known God, the restoration of humanity would have taken place at that moment. The moment Heavenly Mother in God disappeared, in the heart of humans, love, peace, and harmony, which symbolize Mother, ceases to exist in the human world. The moment the power becomes the highest goal of life for humans, humanity sank into a never-ending spiral of conflict. War, exploitation, and misery, effectively creating living hell on earth and in the spirit world. Love, peace, and harmony do not exist in the age of power. The world governed by force tried to take love by force. Money and power are the measure of love. Man tries to keep the peace by force. The reason many countries own nuclear bombs is to protect their own peace. Man tries to create the unity by force. Among many countries, there are multi-ethnic nations. This is why people want a strong government to rule multi-ethnic people. All this is because we do not know the nature of God, Creator. What can change for us when we come to know that God is both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother is that the Mother Nature that comes from Heavenly Mother bring balance, complementary, care, all elements necessary for cooperation, unity, and harmony. With the revealing of the Heavenly Mother, woman's role, importance, and authority are revived. Woman's authority here is not the feminist logic, which insists that man and woman struggle to find equality. Woman's authority is guided by the logic of love based on mutual respect for each other role and contribution. When there are no highs and lows, water inevitably stagnant. If night and day were constantly on one side, all living things could not survive. Both high and low, day and night, subject and objects are equally important and have the same value. Without one, the other cannot stand. Gender discrimination, violence of God's principle of creation. Gender discrimination will be eliminated when we break free from the notion of strength and power. In the world, men are thought to be strong and women are thought to be weak. This is actually inaccurate. Look at this. Maternal love is stronger than anything in the world. It is a long-standing truth that a strong man is always accompanied by a woman. But peace and happiness cannot be achieved by the logic of power. They can only be achieved by the logic of love, mutual respect, cooperation. We should affirm the feminine gender and the role so we can experience genuine peace and happiness. In affirming the feminine gender, we are uncovering the feminine aspect of God and reaping its benefit. What are the keywords for the man? What comes to your mind when you hear the word masculinity? Power, right? Authority, competition, war, violence, and macho man, etc. You can imagine for 6,000 years, there is only one Heavenly Father who represents all masculine image. I think this is the reason why family, society, nation, and world are not in a stable state. So when human comes to know the existence of the Heavenly Mother, they will know that Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother are not rival powers, but are a symbol for love, peace, and harmony. For the past 6,000 years, Heavenly Father, the masculine aspect of God's nature, has been well expressed through Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Second Coming Messiah. Now the being who represents the Heavenly Mother, the feminine aspect of God's nature, is the only begotten daughter, our true mother. For the Heavenly Mother to be recognized among mankind, there must be a foundation. Just as a nutritious soil to need for seed to sprout, humans need a foundation for understanding the Heavenly Mother, which has been hidden for the 6,000 years. That foundation is the Heavenly Parents' Holy Community. Heavenly Parents' Holy Community is a nutritious soil for Heavenly Mother. The Heavenly Parents' Holy Community is led by True Mother. True Mother is the only begotten daughter who represents God's feminine nature. When love, peace, and harmony are shown in Heavenly Parents' Holy Community, human will experience the Heavenly Mother in God. When Heavenly Parents' Holy Community is established, God will manifest it in His fullness, in the form of our Father and Mother as Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. We will finally come to experience God in His fullness, not as our Father alone or Mother alone, but our Heavenly Parent. Brothers and sisters, let us express our infinite gratitude, our true Mother, for this amazing blessing. The blessing to finally experience God, His in fullness as our Heavenly Parent. Last week, we had a read True Mother's Word together and retained 8 points from her message, right? The first point was God is both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. I hope you get some point from today's message to understand why God is both our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. Next week, I will talk about the second point, Heavenly Parent, how through invisible wish they embrace, love, and raise all people. Brothers and sisters, thanks for watching. I will see you next week. Heavenly Parent, may bless you and your family.